Georgia is burning. The streets are boiling with rage. The October 26 elections struck a brutal blow not just to the Georgian liberals but to the hopes of EU and NATO too. And so, chaos and the denial have spiraled into pure anarchy. The people are fighting in the streets. Tensions are exploding. Everything feels like a total disaster. However, the Western powers are grinning from ear to ear. And why not? Their long waiting plan to turn Georgia into another Ukraine is finally taking shape. The fort of Tbilisi is falling brick by brick. Georgia is burning with protest as millions continue to flood the streets. Demonstrations have erupted in at least 8 cities, with the protesters blocking road and shutting down the Black Sea port of Poti. The country is in utter chaos, and the Georgian Dream Party, a pro Russia party, has claimed victory in the October 26 election. And as a result, the opposition is boycotting the parliament, and the civil unrest has exploded since the party announced that it will pause Georgia's bid to join the EU. The Georgian Dream claims this decision is to protect the country from outside interference, a move announced by Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze last Thursday. And so, millions have stormed to the streets in the most violent way possible. President Salome Zurabishvili is calling the government illegitimate, and even she has joined the protesters. She is demanding new elections, insisting that it is the only path to stability. We have one demand based on the constitution, she declared at an opposition meeting. Meanwhile, in Tbilisi, the protesters are now storming the parliament's doorstep, waving EU flags and wearing masks to protect against the police tear gas. Uniformed officers have pushed them back, forcing the protesters to regroup near the Tbilisi State Assembly. However, the Prime Minister Kobakidze remains defiant, stating that the new government's formation is now complete. The EU, which as of now should have literal zero say in the Georgia's internal affairs, has now refused to recognize the election results, calling for an investigation into serious electoral irregularities. To make the matters worse, the EU is also deciding to impose sanctions on Georgia. EU's new foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, has delivered a sharp warning to the Georgian authorities on Sunday, December 1st, condemning the violence against the peaceful protesters. Using violence against the peaceful protesters is unacceptable, Kallas stated in her speech, emphasizing potential consequences for the EU-Georgia relations. Speaking to the journalist, Kallas indicated that the EU is considering multiple response options, including the potential sanctions. This comes after violent clashes erupted outside Georgia's parliament, where the police confronted the demonstrators using tear gas. The streets are now battlefield of democracy, with the Georgia's future now balancing between pro-Russian politics and European aspirations. But folks, do you know, history doesn't just repeat, it rhymes. And right now, Georgia's verse sounds uncomfortably similar to Ukraine's previous chapters. The playbook appears eerily familiar. A pro-Russian leader winning elections, a Euromaidan type protest, and then the situation goes from bad to worse. It was only the Euromaidan protest, also known as the Ukrainian Revolution for Dignity, that accelerated country's shift to the West. The civil unrest that started in November 2013 in Ukraine following then-President Viktor Yanukovych's decision to suspend the negotiation with European Union in favor to closer ties with Russia. As the Georgia protests grow in size and intensity, the government has similarly responded with force, dispatching the riot police and special forces to disperse the protesters and declare an emergency. Since last year, Western leaders have expressed their full support for the Georgia protest, saying that it has always wanted to encourage all political leaders in Georgia to resume the pro-EU reforms inclusively and constructively. And so the former Georgian Prime Minister had also accused West and the Ukraine of spreading unrest deliberately. Irakli Garibashvili had lashed out at the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky for rallying support for the mass protest in Tbilisi, Georgia. Also, does anyone have an appropriate answer as to why the Ukrainian snipers arrived in the most suspicious way? Russia's SVR intelligence claimed that the US is orchestrating a Ukraine style revolution in Georgia, mirroring the 2014 scenario where a pro Russia president was ousted. They allege that the foreign agents are pushing Georgia towards confrontation with Russia and attempting to dethrone the democratically elected Georgian Dream government. The parallels right now are stark: external powers manipulating internal political dynamics, potential foreign backed coup attempt, and strategic geopolitical pressure to realign Georgia's political orientation. For Tbilisi, right now, the challenge remains: can Georgia resist external interventionist strategies and maintain the national sovereignty? Because for now, it appears that Georgia is walking down the path of pain and despair that Ukraine took almost a decade ago.